The wind cut like a blade through the pine, but I heard it, a soft, broken whimper, like a pup too weak to cry. I rode slow, rifle ready, expecting a wounded coyote. What I found instead was a child, tied to a tree with wire, her lips blue, her hands shaking. Her eyes met mine, hollow as winter sky, and she said, "Please do not leave me here. I reckon I have heard gunfire, screams, and dying prayers, but nothing ever chilled me like that whisper did." Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Comment below. My name is Wade Harlan. Folks used to say it like it meant something. Like the name could shake fear into men or calm a skittish colt. But out here, names mean less than the dust on your boots. Out here, a man is judged by the way he walks into silence and what he leaves behind when he rides out. I was not always alone. Once, long ago, I had a wife named Clara. Skin like soft wheat, voice like June rain. We had a little boy too, Eli. Just turned 2 when the Del Rio gang came through. They left fire where love used to live. I buried my family under the cottonwood out by Bitter Hollow, and I reckon a part of me stayed buried with them. Since then, I have wandered. Drifted like smoke from a snuffed-out flame. I never stayed nowhere long. I hunted, trapped, fixed what needed fixing on other men's land. I never slept in the same spot 2 nights straight unless snow pinned me down. I had no plans, no future, and no reason to hope for one. I have seen what men do when they think no one is watching. I have seen little girls sold like cattle and boys whipped for stealing bread. I learned quick that justice out here rides a slow horse, and mercy wears a blindfold. So I kept to myself. Figured if I could not change the world, I could at least stay clear of it. But you see, life has a cruel sense of timing. It waits until your heart has gone good and quiet before it throws a sound like that into the wind, a cry not meant for this world. That morning, I had just passed through Crow Hill, traded pelts for beans and bullets, and was heading west through the pines. Snow had started to drift across the trail, and my horse, Scout, was restless under me. That is when I heard it. That whimper. I thought maybe it was an injured animal, a fox caught in a trap. But as I neared the sound, I felt something twist in my gut. The trees parted, and there she was, tied to a crooked pine, rope so tight it cut into her tiny wrists. Her dress was torn, her hair matted with dried blood. Her lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Just air. Like she had been calling too long and had run out of voice. Then she said it. "Please do not leave me here." I do not remember dismounting. I just remember the feel of the wire in my hands, the blood on her skin, and the way her bones felt sharp under my coat as I wrapped her up. She did not cry. That is the part that still haunts me. She did not weep, not even once. Like she had already cried all she ever could. I gave her my last canteen. Her hands shook so bad I had to hold it to her lips. She took 2 sips, then pulled away like she thought I might strike her for wasting it. I tried to ask her who did this, where her folks were. She just looked down and whispered, "He said I was bad. Said trees don't talk back." She would not say his name. But her shoulders curled in like she still heard his footsteps coming. I carried her to a cave I knew, one that sat high up and dry, with a small spring inside. I lit a fire and cooked beans, but she would not eat till I took a bite first. I did. Twice. Then she wolfed them down like a starving pup, barely chewing. Her eyes never left me, not once. As night fell, the wind howled outside like a dying dog. Inside, it was just the 2 of us, huddled close by the fire, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something stir. Not pity. Not guilt. Something older than all that. Like I had been chosen for something I did not ask for, and could not walk away from. That night, I did not sleep much. She curled up beside me, knees to her chest, eyes wide open in the firelight. And I kept my rifle across my lap, listening for footsteps that never came, but knowing full well, someday they would. The days that followed were hard. Not because of the cold or the ride, but because silence settled between us like a third shadow. Her name, I learned on the second day, was Annalee. She whispered it like it was a secret someone might punish her for speaking. She would not sleep unless she could see my eyes. Would not eat unless I tasted first. Would not speak unless I asked twice. And even then, only if I lowered my voice real soft, like I was speaking to a fawn with a bad leg. We kept to the tree lines, moving slow. I would scout ahead for game, and she would stay behind, huddled under the coat I gave her, carving little lines in the dirt with a stick. I caught her once drawing a house, a little one with a crooked roof and a fence. She covered it quick when she saw me looking. Her face turned stone cold, like she had been caught stealing. I did not press. I knew the look in her eyes, the way they darted to shadows, the way her jaw tightened when I stood too fast. She had been broken down, and not by accident. Somebody had taken their time teaching her to flinch. I should have taken her to the sheriff. Should have gone to a church, a mission, some place with women and warm beds. But I could not. The thought of handing her over made my chest ache in a way I did not understand. I had spent years learning how to feel nothing, and now every glance from that girl tore through me like a hot blade. There was one morning we found ourselves low on supplies. I needed bullets, flour, something more than beans and dried venison. So I led us toward a little settlement called Willow Creek, nothing more than 2 streets and a tavern. I told her we would not stay long. I tied Scout behind the blacksmith's shop and walked her through the back alley toward the general store. The moment she saw the church steeple, she froze. Hands clenched, body rigid. She shook her head hard and backed against the wall. I knelt beside her and tried to calm her, but she just kept saying, "No, not there. Not him. Please, not him." I asked who she meant. She shut her mouth tight. Eyes wet, jaw trembling. I bought supplies fast and left town before sundown. Folks looked at me sideways. One old woman spat near my boots and muttered something about runaways and dirty secrets. I did not look back. That night, as the fire crackled and the moon slipped behind clouds, I asked her why she feared that town. She looked at me for a long time, then whispered, "That is where he found us. Mama and me." Took me when she screamed too loud. I felt the bile rise in my throat. I did not press for more. I just added more wood to the fire and kept my rifle close. There are evils in this world worse than bullets, and some of them wear boots and Bibles. In the following days, Annalee began to trail behind me less. She stayed closer. She helped gather wood, even tried to mend my shirt sleeve with clumsy stitches. One night she asked if Scout had a mother. I told her he did once. She nodded, thoughtful, then said, "Me too. But she is quiet now." There was something else that started to change. Not just her, but me. I started watching the sky again, not just for weather, but for beauty. I started sleeping deeper, waking without dread in my chest. Her silence, once heavy, became something else. Something sacred. Still, I knew better than to hope. Hope, out here, is a fool's rope, fine and frayed and ready to snap. On the 5th night since I found her, I woke to her scream. Cold sweat, arms flailing, voice raw with panic. I wrapped her up and rocked her slow until her breathing calmed. She buried her face in my chest and whispered, "He had a red knife. Said if I told, he would come back." I looked out into the night, heart pounding like a war drum. I did not know who he was yet. But I knew this, if that man ever showed his face near us, would not let him leave breathing. Out in the wild, justice is not a man in a badge. Sometimes, it is just a cowboy with nothing left to lose, and one little girl who deserves better. We were 5 days out from Willow Creek when the storm hit. Came down sudden, sky went black like spilled ink, wind howling like it had lost something. I found shelter beneath an outcrop near Devil's Pass, a place known for bad luck and snake dens. Annalee stayed close without needing to be asked. She was shivering before the first snowflake touched her, not from cold, but from memory. Storms, I reckoned, reminded her of being left out there, tied and waiting. Every thunderclap made her jump like it carried footsteps behind it. I held her hand through that first hour, just sitting silent by the fire. She did not speak, but she did not pull away either. That meant something. Maybe more than anything said out loud. Then came the hoofbeats. Faint, but steady, not wild like a runaway, but slow, deliberate, like a man not in a hurry because he already knew what he was going to find. Annalee stiffened. Her eyes locked with mine. "Do not answer," she whispered. "Please." I kept the fire low and my rifle within reach. Whoever it was, they were not afraid of the storm. That told me all I needed to know. We waited, breath shallow, as the rider passed just beyond the bend, a tall shape on a pale horse. He paused near the trail, looked toward the outcrop, then moved on. Annalee trembled beside me. I did not have to ask. That was him. Next morning, the storm had passed but left the trail buried under half a foot of snow. I knew we could not stay long. I also knew I needed answers. We followed the creek south until we reached an abandoned trapper's shack, half-rotted but better than the open wild. I used old timbers to brace the door and hung pots to clatter if moved. Then I asked her again. This time, gentle but firm. "Who was that man, Annalee?" She stared at her boots. Then she spoke, voice low and flat. "He called himself Mr. Royce. Said he was a preacher. Said Mama owed him for her sins." Her throat caught. When she said no, he made her pay. Then he took me. Every word landed like a stone. "He keeps other kids," she added. "Says we are lessons from the Lord. But he only says that after the hurting stops." I felt my jaw clench tight. I had heard rumors. Places where orphans vanished, where preachers took in the lost and the law looked the other way. I never thought I would hold proof in my arms. The next town over, Coal Creek, had a mining post, 2 churches, and a man named Silas Granger. He owed me a favor from a card game years back. I figured it was time to cash in. We rode in just past dusk. I told Annalee to stay hidden in the livery loft while I spoke to Silas. She gripped my coat before I left. "If you do not come back," she said, "I will wait 1 day. Then I will find you." It was not a threat. It was a promise. A fragile one, stitched together with the last thread of trust she had left. I found Silas in his usual spot, corner table, pipe smoke curling around him like a ghost. He listened without speaking, then nodded once. "I heard of Royce," he said. "Calls himself a man of God but keeps a locked room in the church basement. I know where he keeps the ledgers too. Can you prove it?" I asked. "I can get what you need. But it will take time. Time. The one thing Royce was not likely to give." I returned to the livery. Annalee was still there, curled in straw but eyes wide open. I told her we would ride out in the morning. "You believe me?" she asked. With every breath I got left. She nodded, and for the first time, she leaned her head against my chest without flinching. I stayed awake that night, watching the stars blink between rafters, rifle close by. The wind had softened, but the fire in my gut burned hotter than ever. There are moments a man comes face to face with what he was meant for, not what he dreamed of, not what he lost, but what he was put on this earth to do. Protect. Stand. Redeem what others throw away. That night, I knew, I had not found Annalee by accident. And I would not lose her to the likes of Royce. We left Coal Creek at dawn. The snow had crusted over, brittle under Scout's hooves. Annalee rode behind me, arms tucked tight around my waist, silent as the grave. She had not spoken since I told her we would not confront Royce yet, not until Silas brought proof. I thought she might be angry, but it was not that. She was scared. Scared that waiting meant forgetting. That my promise would vanish in the wind like all the others before it. 3 days passed. We made camp deep in Bearjaw Woods, a quiet place where even the wind held its breath. I hunted deer. She skinned rabbits. Every night, we sat by the fire and said little. Yet the silence between us had changed, no longer empty, but full of weight. Like two people who did not need words to say they were waiting for the same storm to break. On the 4th day, something shifted. She handed me a small leather string, frayed and crooked, but twisted into a bracelet. "Made it from your saddle strap," she said. "So you do not forget me." I took it in my hand, heart pounding. "I could not forget you if I tried, Annalee." She gave a small nod, then added, "Mama made one like this once. For a man who helped us. He threw it away." "I will not," I said. That night, she sang a song by the fire, just a few soft lines, broken by memory. It was a lullaby I had not heard in years. My wife used to hum it when rocking Eli. I stared at the flames, fists clenched tight, chest rising with something I did not know how to hold. "Where did you hear that?" I asked. She looked down. "Mama sang it when she missed somebody. That was the first night she fell asleep with her head on my knee. And I sat there, rifle resting across my lap, watching the shadows dance along the tree line, wondering how far Royce would ride to keep his sins buried. The answer came quicker than I wanted. By midday, I spotted the tracks, 3 riders, maybe 4, following our trail. I swept snow over our prints and led us through the stream beds. I told Annalee we needed to move faster now, and she did not ask why. By evening, I saw them on the ridge, distant shapes outlined by firelight, too far to shoot, but too close for comfort. That night, Annalee did not sleep. Neither did I. She sat beside me, tracing circles in the dirt. "You scared?" she asked. "Not for me." "For me?" I nodded. She leaned against me again and whispered, "Then I will be brave for both of us." That child had more steel in her than most men I had met. By morning, we reached Eagle Rock, a jagged bluff overlooking the valley. Below, I spotted a caravan. Not soldiers. Not bounty men. Just settlers, 2 wagons, 3 women, and a man leading oxen. I hailed them down, told them we needed to pass through. The older woman, tall and thick-boned with white braids, narrowed her eyes at Annalee. "She yours?" "She is mine to protect," I said. "Good answer." They let us share their fire for the night. Gave Annalee stew and a place near the flames. I watched from the edge, nerves coiled tight. Every creak of the wagon made me twitch. Then the woman came to sit beside me. She introduced herself as Mabel Greeley. Said she had 6 kids of her own and had buried 4. "She ain't just scared," she said, eyes on Annalee. "She's haunted. That kind of wound runs deep." "I know," I said. Mabel looked at me hard. "Then do not let her out of your sight. Not even for a second." I nodded. When we left at dawn, Mabel pressed a folded note into my hand. "Read it when the time is right," she said. "You will know." I slipped it into my coat. By the time we reached the canyon pass, I saw Royce's tracks again, closer now, fresher. Annalee noticed too. She stopped walking, looked up at me, and said, "If you need to leave me to keep me safe, I understand." I knelt before her, hands on her shoulders. I left behind everything I loved once, I said. I will not do it again. She blinked, then whispered, okay, then I will believe you. That night, we camped beneath pine trees so tall they seemed to scrape the stars. I did not sleep. Neither did she. We just stared at the sky, waiting for morning, waiting for Silas, and knowing that even if help came, Royce was not far behind. Have you ever seen quiet strength in someone so small? Tell me in the comments. The next stretch of trail was quiet, too quiet. The kind where even the birds stay hushed, like nature itself is holding its breath. Annalee rode beside me now, not behind. Her eyes scanned the tree line just like mine. She had learned how to read shadows, how to move when the wind covered our steps. That little girl was turning into something fierce and watchful. But beneath it, I saw the tired child she still was. We reached a hollow known as Widow's Pocket, a bowl-shaped valley fed by spring water and old elk trails. I had been there before, back when I hunted for furs and tried to outrun memories. It was the first place I ever cried for Clara and Eli, the first time I let myself miss them without shame. I decided we would rest there for 2 days. Let the horses graze. Let Annalee breathe. That evening, I showed her how to fish with a string line and carved hook. She caught 2 trout. Cleaned them like a pro. Her fingers worked fast, but her voice stayed quiet until the sun dipped low behind the hills. Then she spoke, just above a whisper. Mama used to sing when she cooked. Even when she was sad. I nodded. Clara did too. She looked at me. Your wife? Yes. And your boy? Eli? My chest tightened. I had not said his name out loud in years. He had Clara's laugh. Got sick the week before the raiders came. Never got better. Annalee nodded like she understood something deep and terrible. Losing people makes you quieter inside. Like a candle going out. I swallowed hard, staring at the fire. You are right, I said. That night, I told her about the first time I rode a horse, about how I once stole peaches from a preacher's tree and got caught by his wife, who made me eat all 6 until I near burst. Annalee laughed. Not loud, not wild. Just a soft, clean laugh that reminded me of spring before the frost hits. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, I think maybe God sent me to you. I looked down at her, throat thick. Maybe he sent you to me, I replied. Next morning, I woke to the smell of pine needles burning. She had started the fire herself, water already boiling. She handed me a tin cup of tea, weak but warm. I watched you enough times, she said. Figured I could try. You did better than most grown men, I told her. She beamed. First time I saw her smile full, no fear behind it. Later that day, she made a sling from an old bandana and practiced tossing stones. I helped her steady her aim. When she hit a tin can off a stump, she clapped once, proud. You are teaching me how not to be weak, she said. No, I said gently. I am teaching you how to remember you are already strong. She thought on that a moment. Then I will teach you something too. What is that? How to stop blaming yourself when people leave. I looked away, eyes stinging sudden. That will take more than a sling and a campfire. She nodded. We got time. That evening, I read Mabel's note. Just 6 words scrawled in pencil. You are more than your sorrow. I folded it slow, tucked it into my vest. It felt like a blessing spoken over a grave. By the second night, Annalee asked to sit watch with me. I said yes. Not because I needed help. But because I knew she needed to feel like she could protect something too. We sat side by side beneath the stars, fire low, rifles across our laps. She looked over at me and said, You think we are family now? I nodded. Not by blood. By choice. She smiled. That kind's harder to break. Then she leaned her head against me, and for a long while, we just listened to the wind move through the trees like a hymn. The peace did not last. We were camped along a river bend, the kind where the sound of rushing water covers even the softest footstep. I had just finished cleaning my rifle when I heard hoofbeats. Not fast, controlled. Precise. Annalee's eyes locked with mine. She felt it too. Something was coming. I reached for my rifle, stood slowly, and turned toward the trail. A man emerged from the trees, not Royce, but close in age. Clean boots. Long gray duster. And a badge pinned to his chest. Name's Sheriff Danner. Out of Pike Hollow, he said, voice like gravel dragged over wood. Looking for a child. Girl about her age. He nodded toward Annalee. She stepped back behind me. Why? I asked, keeping my tone calm. Her pa reported her missing. Says she's touched in the head, runs off. He's worried sick. Got witnesses said a drifter took her. My blood boiled, but I held steady. She was left tied to a tree, I said. Hands cut. Starving. Sheriff Danner did not blink. That's not what the report says. Annalee tugged my coat. I felt her shaking again. Not from cold, from being seen like a thing, a problem to be returned. Let me talk to her, the sheriff said. No, I said flat. He frowned. You refusing a lawful inquiry? I am protecting a child. He sighed, like I was a burden. Son, I do not know what she told you, but that man, Royce, is a respected preacher. He built 3 orphan homes. Governor himself signed off on it. That name again. Royce. Annalee backed up farther. She whispered, he is lying. That sheriff works for him. I stepped between them, my voice hardening. She does not go anywhere without a judge's order. Sheriff Danner put his hand on his holster. I matched him. Look, he said, you got a kind face, cowboy. But this is over your head. Let me take her in. You ride free. Annalee's whisper cracked through the air, he sold the other kids. I saw it. He gave them to men with yellow coats. The sheriff froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. Then his hand twitched. I cocked my rifle. He raised both palms. All right, now. No need for violence. Then ride on, I said. His jaw worked like he wanted to argue, but he saw the steel in my eyes. He turned his horse and rode off, but not in a hurry. Like he had other riders waiting. When he vanished over the ridge, Annalee collapsed at my feet. Not fainting. Just exhausted by the weight of it all. I knelt beside her. He will come back. Not alone. I know, she said. He always comes back. We packed camp in silence. Every step felt heavy, like we were walking toward the edge of something we could not come back from. That night, hidden in a thicket near Coyote Ridge, Annalee finally spoke of the worst day. I was 5 the first time he came. Said Mama owed him rent. Mama cried, said she had nothing but me. She looked up at me, eyes dull. So he took me. My hands balled into fists. He said I was chosen. That I would be useful. But he meant for wicked things. I ran once. That is when he tied me to the tree. Said if I ever told, Mama would burn. I whispered, you are safe now. She shook her head. Safe is not real. Not for girls like me. I could not argue, not yet. But I made a silent vow, if Royce or that sheriff tried again, they would not live to ride home. The next morning, we were moving before the sun. I kept my rifle across my lap, my eyes on every bend. But Annalee was quiet again, not from fear this time. From something else. Something like betrayal. You were going to let him take me, she said. No. You hesitated. I was thinking. That is all. She looked away. I cannot be someone you think about. I need to be someone you choose. Those words. They hit harder than any bullet. I reached out and took her hand. She let me. Barely. I choose you, I said. Not out of guilt. Not out of pity. But because you are mine now. She did not speak. But she held my hand tighter. That was enough. For now. We reached the edge of Sundown Basin 3 days later. It was barren country, nothing but wind-cut stone and scrub brush, the kind of place where memories sound louder than voices. I picked it on purpose. No tracks to follow, no cover for an ambush. If Royce wanted a fight, he would have to come straight. But Annalee had changed. She kept her distance now, not from fear, from disappointment. That hurt worse than I expected. She still followed every command, still helped pack camp, still kept her sling tied tight on her belt. But her eyes, once searching for my face, now stayed fixed on the trail. She did not trust me. Not fully. Not after the sheriff. That night, as the stars burned cold above us, I tried to speak. I did not mean to pause. I was trying to protect you without getting us killed. She stirred the fire. You looked at him like you were not sure. I was sure. But men with badges can lie louder than truth. I had to think fast. She nodded, but her silence stretched on. I could feel her slipping. You believe me? I asked. She stared into the flames. I believe you want to. That cut deep. By dawn, I decided to send word to Silas again, rode halfway to Pine Bluff and left a note with a passing wagon train, need the ledgers. Now. Royce is close. When I returned to camp, she was gone. No footprints. No note. Just her sling, tied around a tree. Panic rose fast. I whistled for her. Called her name. Nothing. Then I saw it, a scrap of cloth snagged on a thorn bush, streaked with blood. Small. Red. I followed the trail, barely visible. Half a mile down the ridge, I found her. She was standing still beside a dead pine, arms folded, staring out over the basin. She did not cry when I came. Just said, I needed to see if you would follow. I walked up slow. Why would I not? Because men lie to girls like me. Do I look like a man who lies? She turned, eyes burning. You hesitated. That is worse. I wanted to argue. But she was right. The hesitation had spoken louder than my rifle ever could. I sat down beside her. I have lost everything I ever loved. My wife. My boy. My own name, almost. And just when I started to believe I could care again, I got scared. Not of Royce. Not of dying. Of failing you. She was quiet for a long while. Then she said, you cannot fail what you do not keep. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. I am keeping you, Annalee. Even if the world says I should not. Even if it kills me. She nodded once. Then you better stop hesitating. We returned to camp together. But the next morning, everything shattered. We woke to smoke. Black plumes rising from the south, where the wagon train had passed. We rode hard, cresting the hill just as the flames died down. The wagons were ash. Bodies strewn. The oxen gone. In the dirt, carved with the butt of a rifle, return what is mine. Royce. Annalee stood silent, lips parted, hands clenched. Then she whispered, "He always finds me." I dismounted, heart racing. "No," I said. "Not this time." I buried the dead with what little time I had. Covered them in stones. Said no prayers, just stood in silence while the wind carried smoke away. When I returned to her, she held something out to me. The bracelet. "I want you to wear it now," she said. "I thought you were mad at me." I was. "But Mama said trust grows back slow. I want to try." I took the bracelet and tied it on my wrist. Right then, I swore two things. First, Royce would not lay a hand on her again. Second, I would no longer be a man who hesitates. The next morning, a red-tailed hawk circled above us, slow, steady, watchful. I took it as a sign. Not because I believed in omens, but because something in the air had shifted. Not just the weather. Something inside me. Annalee sat on a fallen log, sharpening a stick with her pocket blade. She worked in silence, but her eyes were calm now. Focused. We were changing, both of us. I checked the ridge trail one last time before packing camp. That was when I saw him. A lone rider on a gray mule. Tall hat, wide shoulders, moving casual as spring wind. I recognized the limp before I saw his face. Silas Granger. He reached the clearing and grinned through his beard. "Told you I'd come." He handed me a rolled packet, tied with horsehair. Ledger entries. Names. Dates. Royce's handwriting. Ain't no judge in the territory that can look at this and still sleep sound. I opened it, hands shaking. Names. Dozens. Girls. Boys. All marked, delivered. Some had crosses beside them. One name made me freeze. Clara Harlan. Delivered to Royce Holdings, 3 months before Bitter Hollow burned. I stared at it, gut dropping like a stone. "No," I muttered. Silas looked confused. "What is it?" I shoved the page toward him. "That is my wife's name. My Clara. She was listed as, property? Laborer. That is what he called her." I walked away, heart pounding, fists clenched. The world tilted under me. All these years, I thought she was killed in the raid. But what if she was taken? What if Royce had her sold off like she was nothing? I sat down hard on a rock, the wind slapping my face like judgment. Annalee came up behind me, quiet as always. She placed a hand on my shoulder. "You knew her?" "She was my wife." Her hand stayed there, steady and sure. "Then this is not just about me anymore." "No," I whispered. "It never was." I returned to Silas. "Is there any mention of my boy?" I asked. He flipped through pages. Shook his head. "Only her." Part of me broke then, the part that had held onto the image of Clara and Eli together in death. Now I did not know what to believe. Annalee stood tall beside me. She touched the bracelet on my wrist. "We get him now?" she asked. I nodded. "We get him." We rode west toward Dust Hollow, Royce's compound. Silas stayed behind to gather townsfolk, said he would bring the ledgers to the judge in Pike Hollow. As we crossed the ridgeline, I felt something lift. Not peace. Purpose. For the first time in years, I was not riding from something. I was riding toward it. At camp that night, Annalee sat close by the fire. She braided 2 strands of leather together and tied them around her wrist. A match to mine. "If we do not come back," she said, "we stay together in the stories." "We will come back," I said. "You promise?" I promise on her name. She looked up at me, firelight dancing in her eyes. "Then let's go bring justice." We reached Dust Hollow by dusk. It was not a town, not really, just 5 buildings clustered around a dry well and a rotted church. Royce's compound sat beyond it, on a hill crowned with barbed gates and a bell tower. Annalee stared at it long and hard. "That bell rings every morning at 5, she said quietly. "Makes the little ones line up for head count. Anyone who speaks out of turn gets marked." "What do you mean, marked?" She rolled up her sleeve. There, faint but deep, was a scar across her forearm. "A brand. Not with fire, with a blade. He calls it, cleansing the wicked." I reached out, gently covered the scar with my hand. "No more," I said. "That ends tonight." We scouted the ridge. I counted 6 guards, rifles slung low, more for intimidation than aim. Royce had built himself an empire on fear, not strength. But fear is a brittle weapon. We camped a mile off, behind a ridge of boulders. I drew out our plan in the dirt: 1 entrance, rear wall easy to climb, windows unbarred. I would sneak in after dark, find the cellar, and take the ledgers if Silas's copy was not enough. Annalee would stay with Scout. "You do not need to come," I said. "Not for this part." She crossed her arms. "Yes, I do." I opened my mouth to argue, but she raised her hand. "You told me I was strong. That you believed it. Let me show you." I nodded. We waited until night swallowed the valley. I climbed first, then lowered a rope. Annalee followed, silent and sure, nimble as a shadow. We slipped in through the back pantry. The place smelled like soap and blood. My rifle led the way, her sling clutched in her fist. Down in the cellar, we found more than ledgers. We found children. 7 of them, the oldest maybe 10, the youngest just 3. All quiet, all wide-eyed. They stared at Annalee like she was an angel come back to save them. She knelt beside a little boy with a torn shirt and whispered, "We are getting you out." One girl reached up and touched her face. "You were the one they said ran away." Annalee nodded. "I did. And now we all do." I scanned the room. Saw ropes, empty crates, a ledger wide open on the desk. I snapped it shut. Grabbed it. "Time to go," I said. We snuck them out, one by one, using the rope over the back wall. Annalee stayed behind to guide the last child, a girl too scared to move without her. As she reached the top of the wall, a shot rang out. One of the guards, half drunk, had wandered behind the smokehouse and seen the rope. He fired wild. I turned and shot him clean through the chest. He dropped like a sack of wheat. Annalee froze on the wall. "Jump!" I shouted. She did. I caught her, stumbled, kept moving. We ran with the kids into the trees. By morning, we had made it to an old miner's shack Silas had marked on the map. Safe enough for a moment. Annalee did not cry. She just sat with the kids, wrapped them in blankets, and whispered their names back to them, like she was giving them their voices again. I watched her from the doorway, chest tight. That little girl, that ghost I found bound to a tree, had become a light brighter than any fire I had ever known. We were not just surviving anymore. We were building something. It was strange how fast children can learn to trust again, when someone gives them a reason. In the days after we freed them, those 7 little souls stayed close to Annalee. She braided their hair, patched their shirts, and taught them how to build a fire using pine cones and patience. They watched her like she was something holy. And maybe she was. Meanwhile, I rode to Pike Hollow with the ledgers clenched in my saddlebag and Royce's name burning like fire in my chest. I left the children in that miner's shack with Silas, who promised to guard them with his own rifle and 3 loyal men. At the courthouse, I placed those pages on Judge Meeker's desk. A man known for 2 things, stubbornness and a hatred for injustice. He read every word. Every name. His hands shook. You have done something mighty, he said, voice ragged. Royce is finished. Warrants were signed that same day. But back in Dust Hollow, Royce was already running. When I returned to the shack, Annalee met me with a solemn look. He's gone, she said. Took the last wagon and half his silver. Silas spat in the dirt. Man like that knows when his lies are catching up. We could have stopped there. Could have let the law chase him across the plains. But I looked at those kids, at Annalee, and I knew that would never be enough. I am going after him, I said. Annalee did not flinch. Then so am I. No, I said. You stay. This is not your burden. Yes it is, she said. He taught me fear. I want to teach him regret. Silas raised a brow. She is her own kind of storm, Wade. I nodded. So we tracked him, 3 days west, through gullies and ghost towns. He was heading for the border, fast and desperate. On the second night, we camped under a cottonwood. I stared at the stars, remembering Clara, wondering if somewhere in that dark sky her spirit could see me now. Annalee lay beside the fire, hands behind her head, whispering to herself. I leaned closer. What are you saying? Names, she replied. Of every kid I met in that cellar. So I do not forget. My throat closed. You are something fierce, Annalee. She smiled softly. You made me that way. By morning, we spotted Royce's wagon at the edge of Dribone Flats, his horses lathered, his face wild and unshaven. We rode up slow. He reached for his pistol. I shot it clean from his hand. End of the road, I said. He looked between me and Annalee, then laughed, a broken, bitter sound. She was nothing, he spat. They were all nothing. Annalee stepped forward, calm and clear. We are everything. And your name means nothing now. We hauled him back to Pike Hollow in chains. The trial lasted 3 days. Grown men wept as the ledgers were read aloud. Survivors stood and spoke. Children pointed to scars. Royce never looked up. Not once. The judge sentenced him to life behind iron bars. The courtroom cheered. But Annalee just stood still, her eyes locked on mine. It is over, I whispered. She nodded. No. It is beginning. Can a child teach a grown man how to hope again? Share your thoughts below. Spring came early that year. The snows melted clean off the ridge, and the creek near the miner's shack ran sweet with cold water again. We stayed on the land, even after Royce was locked up, because some places, once stained, need love to be planted over them. I built a cabin. 2 rooms, 1 porch, and a swing made from split pine and old rope. The children helped carry beams. Annalee painted the door sky blue. Said it looked like hope. Folks started calling it Safe Hollow. One by one, women came, widows with tired eyes, mothers with nowhere to run, and older girls who remembered too much but were ready to begin again. We took them in. Fed them. Taught them. Gave them back their names. Annalee ran the schoolhouse we built from an old barn. She stood at the front each morning with her braid tied in a ribbon and a sling still strapped to her belt, not for fear anymore, but memory. She was still just a girl, but she carried herself like someone twice her age. Gentle. Watchful. Unshakable. I stayed near the gate. Rifle slung, eyes sharp. Royce's supporters never returned, but we knew the world still held shadows. That summer, a federal marshal rode in. Brought news we did not expect. Royce had died in his cell. No sign of struggle, he said. Just stopped breathing one night. Like his sins finally swallowed him whole. Annalee was quiet for a long time after. Then she said, I did not want him to die. I wanted him to live long enough to see what we built without him. I nodded. Maybe he did. Maybe that is why he died. We planted a sunflower patch out back, just past the fence line. Each one named after a child we had lost, or saved, or both. And at night, when the wind was kind, would sit on the porch, carving wooden animals for the little ones while Annalee played the fiddle she rescued from the trader's shop. The tune she played was the same lullaby her mama used to sing, and Clara used to hum to Eli. It was strange. Full circle. One day, Annalee sat beside me as I whittled. She said, "I used to think being strong meant never crying. But I see now, strong people cry the most. They just do it when no one's looking." I smiled. "I see you." She looked at me, eyes soft. "I see you too. No more fear. No more waiting for someone to come save us. We had saved each other." Years passed. The land grew green where once it had been hard. Children who arrived in silence now ran barefoot through the fields, laughing like they had never known fear. Safe Hollow had become more than a place, it was a promise, rooted in pain but watered with grace. Annalee grew tall and graceful, her voice clear as the creek that ran past our fence line. She taught the little ones not just reading in sums, but how to speak truth, how to protect one another, how to stand when the world tried to fold them in. Every spring, we held a bonfire to honor those who did not make it out. We told their names out loud, each one echoed back by the children. No one forgotten. No one erased. That was the law of Safe Hollow. Annalee carved a wooden sign that hung over the gate, "Chosen family lives here." One morning, I rose before dawn and walked the path down to Clara's grave, the marker I built from oak, now worn soft by years of wind and prayer. I sat there, hat in my hands. "I failed you once," I said. "But I reckon I finally became the man you saw in me." I felt her there, quiet, forgiving. When I returned, Annalee was waiting on the porch with 2 mugs of coffee, just the way I liked it. "You talked to her?" she asked. "I did." "She hear you?" "She always does." We watched the sun come up, gold spilling across the land we built. It touched the swing, the chapel, the schoolhouse with its crooked chimney. Then she said something I had not expected. "I want to find the others." I looked at her, puzzled. "The others?" "The ones still out there. Like I was. Like those kids. The ones who do not know yet that they are allowed to dream again." I stared at her a long moment. Then nodded. "We will ride at first thaw," I said. "You and me." She smiled, her eyes shining. The past no longer owned us. The pain had not vanished, but it had bloomed into something holy. I once thought I would die with a name no one remembered. But now, I will live on in every child who runs free under these skies. Not because I was perfect, but because I chose to stay. To fight. To love without flinching. That is how redemption works. It starts small, like a hand reaching out in the dark. And it grows until it feels like sunlight. In the end, I was just a cowboy, scarred by loss, made quiet by time, and nearly hollowed out by the things I could not fix. But one little girl, bound to a tree and too brave for her years, gave me back my name. Not Wade Harlan, the drifter. But Wade Harlan, protector. Builder. Father in the only way that ever truly mattered. We did not rewrite the whole world. Just our corner of it. One child at a time. One supper shared. One scar tended with gentler hands. And I came to understand something I had never believed before. That family is not something you are born into, it is something you choose, and something that chooses you. That some of the greatest miracles begin with a quiet, stubborn promise, "I will not leave you behind." Annalee taught me that. And I reckon, in some small way, Clara and Eli helped send her to me, like wind carrying seeds across a dead field, planting hope in ground I had long since given up on. If you are listening to this now, maybe you feel forgotten. Maybe the world has walked past you one too many times. But hear me clear. You are not too late. You are not too broken. There is still something soft in you, something worth fighting for. And if someone has made you feel like less than you are, bind your heart to this truth. You are not what they did. You are what you rise from. So if you have got strength left in you, use it. Not for revenge. Not for proving them wrong. Use it to build something better. And love, when it finally finds you, let it stay. Let it stay. If this story touched you in any way, I would love to know, who in your life has helped you feel safe again? Share their name below, and tell them thank you.